You guys ready to win big this week? I got all the stats, all the trends, and the best picks for your college football bets in week 3. Now, last week was not a good week for me. I'm 16-9 for the season in the money line, but went 5-10 last week in the spread. That's okay though. We're still ahead of the curve, and we're going to do much better this week, guys. So, without further ado, let's get into the best games of the week, starting with Purdue against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's an 8.5 favorite going into this one. Obviously, they lost to Northern Illinois last week. That was one of the biggest upsets in school history. Like I said, they're 8.5 point favorite, and the public is taking Purdue at 62% this week. I'm going to fade that trend. I'm going to take Notre Dame straight up, and I'm going to take Notre Dame minus 8.5. They are 10-4 in the last 14 games on the road against the spread, not to mention 9-4 the last 13 as a favorite. I'm taking Notre Dame with 8.5 points in this one. Pittsburgh against West Virginia, the backyard brawl. Now, this is kind of a very lackluster version of this, but I think it's still going to be a good game. West Virginia is only a 2-point favorite, but the public's taking West Virginia 3/4 of the time. 75% they're taking them in the spread. I'm going to agree with them. I'm taking West Virginia straight up. I'm going to take them minus 2 points, win by more than 2. This is basically a toss-up when it comes to the numbers, but I'm still going to take West Virginia. I just think they're the better team, even on the road in this rivalry. Oklahoma versus Tulane. Oklahoma absolutely laid an egg against Houston. They were, I think, at least a 3-touchdown favorite over them. They only won by 4 last week. This week coming in, they're a 13.5 point favorite over the American team Tulane. Public is taking Tulane 69% of the time. And I'm going to agree with them. I think Oklahoma, if they lose this game, then their season's going to be absolutely derailed. I don't think they lose this game, although I do think Tulane covers in this one because the last 16 games they played on the road, Tulane has covered in 11 of those against the spread. Although Oklahoma's 9-6 total against the spread since the start of last year, I'm still going to go with the trends. I'm going to go with the public and take the green wave against the spread in this one. Number 12, we got Indiana versus UCLA. This is UCLA's first ever conference game as a Big Ten opponent. They host Indiana, who goes to UCLA for the first time in a very long time. They're a 3-point favorite even on the road. The public thinks Indiana's going to win 61% of the time against the spread. It's not that convincing, but it's still enough to put me over the edge to say Indiana will win this straight up, and they will cover the 3-point spread. UCLA has not done too well against the spread at home, so I'm going to take the Hoosiers in this one as a slight favorite on the road. Number 11, Kansas versus UNLV. Kansas lost to Illinois last week. Took a big hit for the rest of their season, but I do think they will rebound in this one. They're a 9-point favorite against the Running Rebels. The public thinks Kansas will cover this 77% of the time. I'm going to buck that trend, though, and take UNLV with the 9 points. UNLV, since the start of 23, has been the best team overall against the spread. They're 12-4 against the spread last year, and since 2021, they're 15-4 as the away team against the spread. So everything points towards the Rebels winning this one, but there's no way I could take them winning this one outright. I'm taking Kansas to win this one. Number 10, Georgia versus Kentucky. This game is not really any guess. It's not really. There's no question who's going to win the game. Georgia's definitely going to win the game. Only question is who's going to cover the spread. Georgia's 24 points in this one. Even though it's Kentucky and they're not that good of a team, 24 points is still a lot, especially on the road. The public thinks Georgia's going to cover 66% of the time. I'm going to fade that one. I'm going to take Kentucky. I think Brock Vandagriff, his return to Georgia since transferring to Kentucky, is going to be enough to cover the 3.5 touchdown spread against the Bulldogs. They're 14-10 at home against the spread in the last 3 years. I'm going to take the Wildcats to cover. Obviously, Georgia's going to win this one outright, though. Number 9, an absolute toss-up for me. And the public thinks so as well. Florida State on the road at Memphis, 6.5 point favorite for the Seminoles. The public thinks Memphis would cover 55% of the time. That's basically a toss-up. I do not see Florida State starting the season 0-3, especially against the 2 losses they had against Georgia Tech and just getting destroyed by Boston College. I do not see them losing to one of the group of 5 favorites, Memphis. If they do, though, I don't know if Mike Norvell survives the weekend if he starts 0-3 after this game. But I think they win this game outright. But a toss-up, I think Memphis covers a 6.5. I think this will be a close game going into the fourth quarter, and I think this Memphis will cover the touchdown spread basically in this one. Number 8, the original Civil War, Oregon versus Oregon State. Oregon State's now obviously part of the dissolved Pac-12. Only them and Washington State remain. They go into this one as a 16.5-point underdog. Oregon's a 16.5-point favorite on the road in Corvallis. This is a very interesting spread because I don't know how there's basically a 2.5 touchdown favorite the Ducks are against their rival. The public's taking Oregon State 82% of the time the spread. That's a huge swing. I'm going to agree with that. I'm going to take Oregon State plus 16.5. I do think the Ducks win outright though, but as you can see in the bottom there, as a home teams in the last 3 years, Oregon State has the best record against the spread. They've only not hit the spread 3 times out of 19. 16 out of the 19 they've hit the spread as a home team. I'm taking the Ducks, or the Beavers in this one, to cover the 16.5. Number 7, another rivalry game that's moved up because of the new expanded conference realignment. Washington against Washington State, the Apple Cup. Washington State's the home team in this one, and Washington's only a 4.5-point favorite. The reigning national runner-up. They lost everybody, but I think Washington is still a decent team, though, even though they lost a lot of players on the team. The public's taking Washington 77% of the time. I'm going to buck that trend, not only with the spread. I think Washington State covers at 4.5. I think they win outright. I think Washington State, not having a regular conference to compete in, I think they have a decent year, and I think this is going to be the start of that surprising trend for Wazoo to continue for the rest of their season. Number 6 game, a very interesting road matchup for Alabama going into Big Ten country early on in the season, going into Madison, Wisconsin against the Badgers. They come in as a 15.5-point favorite. The public thinks Bama's going to win 65% of the time. I think I'm going to agree with that. I think Alabama's going to win, obviously, and I think they cover the 15.5. The numbers don't really speak too much to me. Only one that's truly there is Alabama's 10-6 overall against the spread since last year, while Wisconsin's 6-8-1 total against the spread. I think Alabama is just a much better offensive team. If this was in like November, I think this might be a totally different. I have a totally different pick, although the spread might be different too. But it's the 3rd week of the season. Alabama, they had a weak showing against USF last year. Same thing they had this past week. They did that last year against USF. I think they rebound. They cover against the Badgers, and they move on to 3-0 in this early part of the season. Number 5 game, Texas A&M hosting or on the road at Florida. Texas A&M comes in as a 3.5-point favorite only. Florida coming off that, they had a bad loss week 1 against Miami, and then they rebounded. I mean, it was against the FCS team. But DJ Lagway, he put on a show, and I think he's going to be a starter going forward, unless there's some random, like, Graham Mertz somehow comes back in. I don't see how that happens, especially how good he did. In this one, the public is taking Tamu 70% of the time. I'm fading that one. I'm taking Florida with the points, and I'm taking the Gators outright. I think they win as a home underdog. The trends are not good for either team, although the biggest trend I saw was that Texas A&M has only won 2 of their last 11, has only covered 2 of the last 11 times they've been a road team the last 3 years. So I'm taking Florida in this one with the points and to win the game outright. Number 4 game, this is a Friday night game, Big 12 opener for both teams, Kansas State versus Arizona. Kansas State's only a 7-point favorite at home as a night game on Friday. Arizona's been one of the better teams against the spread the last since the beginning of last year. As you see, they're 11-4 overall, and they're the best team as an underdog since the start of last year too. They're 6-0. They've had 6 games as an underdog. They've covered all 6 against the spread since the start of last year. The public is taking Arizona 3/4 of the time. I think Kansas State's going to win outright, but I think Arizona covers the 7. I think this is going to be within 1 possession. It's going to be a great game. The Wildcats cover in this one. Number 3, Missouri against Boston College. Missouri comes in as the ACC-SEC matchup as a 16-point favorite against Boston College. Although Boston College is a 17-point dog against Florida State, week 1, and they not only covered that spread, but I think they won by almost 17. They were like 15 or 16. The public has taken Boston College very much in this one. I'm going to take them as well. 16 points is a lot for a decent team that's been pretty, I think they're power rated 31 right now. Missouri has been one of the best teams, just like Arizona since the start of last year against the spread, though. But I'm still going to take Boston College. I'm going to buck those trends, and I think they cover the 2-touchdown favorite against Missouri, even on the road. Number 2 game of the week, LSU against South Carolina. The game that game day is at. LSU comes in as a 7.5-point favorite against the Gamecocks. The trends are kind of even in this one. LSU hasn't really done well on the road against the spread. South Carolina is just above 50%, so that's a lot better than LSU. The public's barely taken South Carolina. I'm gonna agree with them. LSU is gonna win this game, but I would not be surprised if South Carolina comes away with the upset. But I will take South Carolina with the 7.5. LSU wins by 7. It's gonna be a close game. Should be a good game, even though it's at noon. South Carolina is gonna put on a show at home, especially hosting game day, and it should be a good game. The number one game of the week, though, UCF against TCU. Big 12 opener for both teams, just like a lot of these conference games. UCF comes in as a 1.5 point favorite. Now, this is at the time of this video, at the time when I started this trend. It is the line is basically moved to 1, if not, it's a pick 'em. The public's taking UCF in this one. I do not think that's going to be the case. I'm going to take TCU to cover the 1.5, and I think they're going to win this game outright as a home underdog. I think TCU has been, after that debacle last year, 5-7. I think they're going to recover at home in this one, and I think they're going to surprise a lot of people early on in this Big 12 conference season. And I think they cover and get to 3-0 on the early part of this college football season. If you guys like this video, hit the like button below, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for all future videos regarding the best bets for college football. Going to win some big bucks this week. We have to rebound. We had such a bad week last week. We're going to get back on the schedule, get back on track, and we're going to get in the money this week, guys. So hopefully you guys use these to your advantage, and hopefully we both win some big bucks. See you next week, guys.